ended now. You didn't get the spring game, but how do you feel like did you get most things accomplished that you set out to get in spring?
Yeah, I think we got it all accomplished. I was very disappointed that we weren't able to play the game and the autograph session and all that, because I really wanted to have both of them. I wanted the fans to be here, and then, once the night before they closed down all the activities before, and then driving in and the thunder and the lightning and all that, and then it was canceled. But I'll tell you that the answer on that is that we had elected, if the game was going to be canceled, not to practice in the indoor. We did that, and we got a kid hurt 2 years ago or 3. So I would not have said that. I think I said that in here to you guys. I would not have said that if I wasn't pleased at that point of where we were into spring. I think we got a lot accomplished, and we know a lot about our team. And I really like the segmented tackling that we did, which I think is very, very safe. But yet we had 5 or 6 different times that we could tackle to the ground.
When we talked to you last time, you said you didn't know the exact number, but maybe 5 or so. But you've signed 5 players from the portal. Do you know about? Do you still have needs there? I mean, do you have a number now?
Well, we're going to use our 85 scholarships, and it's still fluid, to be honest with you, about the 105 anticipation of the 105. You can do it 2 different ways. You can bring 120 into camp if you want, and cut 15 the day before the Alabama A&M game, but you're not giving them a choice. I think now if you're having some conversations with them guys who may not make the 105, at least you're giving them a choice to get in, to the portal. So we're kind of actively doing that now, and have this week. So it would be, the number could be maybe 3 or 4 more or less, depending on scholarship numbers that we have.
I know wide receivers are visiting, but is there still a chance for defensive tackle on the list, Coach?
Yeah, I think so. Now, we're heavy in there number-wise, but we wouldn't turn down a guy that was affordable and we felt like could at least run up into the 2 deep. So the answer to your question, yeah, and to be honest with you, probably that's almost any position, not every position, but almost. If we had a scholarship available, finances available, and we thought that he could, whomever, be in the top 2 in the depth chart, at least, we would probably take a strong look at him.
You seem so excited coming into this room about all that's happening these days. Can you speak to the players that you've signed out of the portal?
You're going to have to remind me. I've been pretty busy. I know we've got a quarterback. We got Trevor.
Quarterback today, and just the others.
Excited about him. I think he comes in here and fits exactly what we're looking for. When we lost Madden, I think he was in there vying for the 3 spot and all that. And I think Trevor will come up and be able to do that and continue to get better and press KJ and Talon and be a player for us in the either near future or future that could be a really good player for us. Who else?
Cornerback Neal and the
yeah, I like Neal. Neal's a good-looking kid, big, can run. I thought we did a really good job of recruiting him. And I like him. Obviously, we brought him in thinking he can play for us immediately. Smalls is another guy at safety we needed. We just don't have enough guys back there, and we think he's a really good player, good kid.
You got the edge from Troy.
Lee.
Kent State.
Yeah, both those guys are really good kids. We wanted a pass rusher, so we felt like we went out and got that accomplished. And then, we're good at linebacker. We've got some good linebackers, and we like our linebacker depth-wise. We needed, a veteran guy that's played some ball that could go in there and help us. So I'm pleased with who all we signed, and seem to be really good kids that will fit into the team.
What was your reaction to Madden leaving?
You know, a lot of times where there's smoke, there's fire, and you know we had heard some rumors to that, but you know there's always rumors going around. So I don't know that I was totally surprised. You know, guys, the portal, and I know Nico was high profile, you know, but I'm not. I don't want to blame the players. I don't, for leaving. I mean, you can say, you know, well, he was here 3 months and blah blah blah, but the opportunity to leave is there twice a year. The money to leave for more money is there twice a year. And I'm not positive what we all would do in that situation. So he handled it well, came in and visited with me about it, handled it well, and talked to me about it, and then decided to go in the portal. So obviously, as soon as that happened, then we go find somebody to replace him.
Specifically with Trevor Jackson, the new quarterback, just what are some of maybe the challenges of bringing in someone at that position this late, even if he is just a 2 or 3 on the depth chart?
Well, I think it's a challenge, and I like what you're saying there, but I think it's a challenge for any position. Where we've done well is in this portal. We've done well. Last year, I think we had 8 scholarships going into it, you know, so it was a little bit different, but we've done well with that. I think Bobby's a great teacher. Trevor's a smart guy. So I think that part of it will catch up fast. He's very talented. So there are challenges, and it's more than anything, it's learning the playbook, whether it be any position, learning your coach, you know, how he coaches you, and then learning where the business building is and where my apartment is. There's a lot of things, but after about the first 2 weeks, then you kind of you get settled in, and now we can do so much more now than we ever could in the summer legally. And I think it allows our guys that we get in June to have an opportunity to play for us because of the rule change.
I guess we've been, you know, operating under the assumption that revenue sharing would be coming at some point, and, you know, their developments. I don't know if you can speak on the development specifically, but how much are you in tune with those kinds of things, and how often do you kind of get briefed on those kinds of things?
Well, every day that something comes up, I think, you know, we're all on a head coach's thread, and there's speculation all the time, and then half of it's right and half of it's not right, and when are we going to get the finality of the settlement and all that? I think you just have to, and, you know, like are we going to get grandfathered? Are we, you know, I think our league has said we're going to have 105, you know, in it, and 85 scholarships. So that's what we've been working around for that. And so we get briefed every time something happens, and probably brief more than we think. Like, for instance, I'll tell you this: we felt like it might get done on the 7th, and then we felt like it might get done by tomorrow, and then, as we all know, that's been delayed a couple of weeks now. So we're operating on what the SEC tells us, and then we'll adjust when it's time to adjust.
The recruitment of Trevor, when did that start, and how fast did that move along?
Well, I can't remember the date right now when we lost our other quarterback, but it started as soon as he hit the portal. And the ironic thing is that Bobby had recruited him when he was at A&M, and he was already in the portal, so it went really fast after that, and he's the only one that we spoke with and talked to about it.
And then what else are you looking to get done in the portal?
Well, the number one thing is keep my own players. You know, that's when it's hard to sleep at night. So I'm waiting for Friday at midnight. Number two thing is that we've got some needs in different spots that obviously I think Otis had mentioned that we've got some guys coming in. So we're trying to just get our roster spot to 85 because we know at that point we're done. So we'd like to get to 85, and we're not quite there right now.
And then NFL draft ramping up. Have you been in contact with any of your guys?
You know, I text 8 or 9 of them and just told them how much we all appreciate them and what they did for the University of Arkansas. And Landon Jackson actually has a draft get-together tonight in Texarkana, and we're going to fly down there, myself, Deke, and T. Will and Charlie Williams, and we're going to fly down there and be a part of it. And those are always so much fun. If you guys have never been into one of those, it's just you're sitting around talking, and then all of a sudden here comes a phone, and if it's important people answering it, then it amps up, and then about 5-7 minutes later, the name goes across the front of it. I can remember a few years back whenever I went to Minneapolis, and Chan Hassan and was at Frank's, and that's exactly what happened. And then we went outside and we were talking. Frank and I was talking, and Isaiah Wilson texted me Patriots, and so that was pretty cool. I had a 20 and a 23 back to back. That was a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to celebrate and have a good time tonight, and hopefully he'll get drafted. He deserves to get drafted tonight, so hopefully he will.
Sam, from your seat, just what are the biggest frustrations in your eyes with just how the portal and everything's set up right now? Things that you wish that you could go in and, if you were in charge, change?
Two portals. Again, I don't. You're having spring ball for a lot of reasons. One of them is to get better. One of them is to know who you have on the team, the players to know who's on the team, who they can trust, and then the portal opens after spring. Again, I don't blame the kids for it because it's opportunity for them, but I'm not for sure that if you're going to have a spring portal that's good for anybody. To me, you'd have it during that break, sometime January 2 to 12 is what I've heard. Hopefully they'll do that. But the biggest challenge is that you improve, and then what does that mean? Well, my money should improve. Well, you just signed a contract in January, and we may not have the money available, you know what I mean? So it's just a constant part of fighting that. And I want to be able to pay the players, but I also want to know what my team's supposed to look like after spring ball.
My count was off. I've got you at 86, or maybe utilizing half scholarships or anything like that.
We haven't yet because I don't think we're allowed to until July. But no, your count's probably not off. It's probably just not current. And so when we get out of this meeting, it may current up a little bit more. So it's not. You were right. It's just you're just not. You're not. You don't know yet.
So at cornerback, obviously Neal's the latest addition. I was wondering if he would be a guy that would also look at nickel, but I find it a little interesting. You brought in Walker, Young, Neal, Davila, who was a top 10 JUCO player nationally. Didn't look like you just went out and got a guy, but you really tried to establish a lot of competition there. Was that the thinking with bringing in so many veteran guys that have played a lot of football?
Yeah, and then Trey, you have to think about which one of those guys, if they're not starting at corner. You look at a board and you're going, man, we need to be 2 deep. And that's true. But if my third best corner is my best or my backup boundary safety, you understand what I'm saying? So we brought in body types that were strictly corner, and then we brought in body types that were corner, boundary safety, hog, as you mentioned. And where we were depleted was the secondary. And so we wanted to be right of whom chose us and who we chose, but we also wanted to make sure that, look back at Hudson Clark. And Hudson Clark, I mean, he caught a lot of hell, while he was here. And he saved us in so many ways. But, it was corner, it was safety, it was, you know what I mean? And he had a lot of value. And so that was our thinking, to bring in some true corners and then some guys that were corners who could also play another position. And so that's where we're at right now. We'll kind of figure a little bit more of that out in over the summer and then fall camp.
What stroke of midnight Friday? What is is it an exhale? Is there champagne?
Yes.
Light up a cigarette? I don't know.
I can't tell you how many calls that I've had with other head coaches. And, yes, I'm hoping I got enough energy to stay up till midnight Friday night. I probably will. But that will be a big relief, not just for myself, but I think for every head coach out there. Because heaven forbid, you don't want to lose somebody that's certainly going to make a difference on your squad, and you think about it all the time.
Going back to Trevor Jackson for a second, I was researching him. I think he was maybe a walk-on at Florida State. Do you know if that's accurate? And then also just how much of to have Bobby Petrino on your staff, he's the guy that recruited him, as you said, how much does that soothe any concerns you have at the quarterback position when you got, Coach Petrino?
I don't know about his status, whether he walked on or not. I know that when Bobby was at A&M that they wanted him, so from that conversation. I think in anything, when you have a veteran who's done it before, who understands exactly, we sat in there and we watched it together. We watched Trevor's tape. But I think if Bobby Petrino wants a guy, and especially at the position that he coaches, it's pretty much that's what you should do. And he certainly knows a lot more about quarterback than I do. I was a hell of a seventh grade quarterback, but they put me to right guard after that. So it must not have been that good. But I trust Bobby and but I evaluated him as well, and he got a quick release, a strong arm. He's very, very good looking, 6'2", 6'2 and a half guy, great family. I think he'll fit in well with the team, and I think he's exactly what we're looking for.
And with everything that went down with Madden, does that impact at all Jace Brown, the wide receiver that you signed with him?
It could. We'll see. It certainly could.
Coach, looking at the offensive line, it seems like the left side at this point might be pretty solidified, but over on the right side, it seems like things might still be working at this point. How do you see that playing out over the next few months?
I don't know that there's a movement, you know what I mean? I don't know that we got a tackle, we're going to move to guard or anything like that. Obviously, when Kobe Branham comes back, I think we're going to be, stronger there as well. Even, we really like what Blackstock did, but that'll give us another guy who we believe in. I don't think we'll move anybody into center or anything. I think your battle would be can Shaq win the tackle spot, and then what do you do with Emarian? If Emarian wins the spot, then you leave Shaq right where he is. So I don't think there's a whole lot of movement as far as position goes. You'll be into the summer and into two-a-days trying to figure out who's one and who's two, but I don't see a lot of movement.
Do you feel like you're more athletic or deeper there than what you've been in maybe the past couple of seasons?
We are. We definitely are. And I think once we hone in on these are our 7, 8 guys, I think we'll even be better. But yeah, I think we're a lot deeper there. We're a lot bigger, a lot stronger, and we have more veteran guys who have played than what we have in the past.
Going back to when you were talking about Madden at the beginning, you mentioned that there were rumors that kind of spurred up that he might leave. When you start hearing those rumors or things start getting back to you, do you and your staff approach the player at that point, or do you let them come to you? And how much of a recruiting pitch do you have to lay on when that kind of thing happens?
Normally not, because there's so many rumors about so many guys. Normally not, because sometimes you can make a mountain of a molehill. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes guys change their mind and all that. But no, I mean, what we found pretty much, if a guy wants to go in the portal, he's going to go, and he already knows where he's going. He knows what he's going to make. So at that point, words they don't come out green, and at that point you probably lost them at that point. And so we just try not to make a mountain out of a molehill. Coach the guys like we should coach them, and be respectful and try to get them better. And if it happens, it happens. At that point, if you want them to stay, you certainly try to talk them out of it and talk to them about their position coach, what the scheme can do to develop them, and all those type things. But if they've made up their mind to leave, they're going to leave.
Coach, appreciate you.
All right, guys.